Hi, everybody. Welcome to Dr. Hooten's Hope Dealer podcast, recently rated #1 best healthcare podcast of all time in the entire universe. I'm excited today because we're talking about something that really hits home with me is asthma, and really any type of breathing problem or like an immune deficiency type of thing. Maybe it's allergies. You'll see as we go through this short podcast that those are all intertwined. And as a kid, I was the one kid that was not able to finish a baseball game or soccer game because I couldn't breathe. I would have to take things at night, prescription meds to go to sleep. I'd have to wake up in the morning, take prescription meds just to even breathe normal throughout the day. I seemed to always have sinus congestion everywhere. But the big thing was when my chest would tighten up and I'd go into these like mild panic attacks because you start struggling for air. So I would reach for that rescue inhaler. So many people are dealing with this, a lot of children, a lot of adults. The numbers of people that are dealing with things like asthma and breathing problems have only gotten bigger and bigger. The percentage of the U.S. dealing with some type of breathing issue, depending on the research you read, is reaching up to almost 50%. And that includes things like allergies, asthma, and the like. So really I want to go through the steps that I took to completely get rid of that. I haven't had to use that inhaler in almost 40 years. I'm 52 years old. The last time I reached for a prescription drug for breathing issues, I was 13 years old. But from the time I was born until 13 years old, I was sick. I was getting pneumonia. I would always be at the pediatrician's office. My parents debated on how many times I went to the hospital before I was 2 years old. It was somewhere between 18 and 25 times. Or they'd hospitalize me. And I've got a daughter now. I mean, I can't imagine if you're dealing with a kid with breathing issues, what does that do when you see your child struggling to breathe? And I was that child. I mean, it was hard enough on me. I can't imagine the stress and emotional turmoil that it put my parents through. But they did what they had to do, took me to the hospital, took me to the doctor, and I was on this array of medications that I took every day. And then every couple of months, I would have to go into the pediatrician's office and take a steroid treatment that lasted about 30 minutes. Now, we were doing everything that the doctors told us. Come to find out, none of that stuff was getting me healthy. None of it was actually working. Now, you may say, wait a second, Dr. Hooten, when I give my kid that inhaler, they start breathing better. Yes, that's true, but let's define what it's really doing. You see, your kid or you, if you're having difficulty breathing and you're going through these immune problems, listen to me carefully. You're not having that because of a lack of a medication. In other words, if you start having this tightness in your chest and you can't get a full breath, that's not happening because of some medication that you didn't take. That's what the drug companies want you to believe. That's what they want you to feel. That's what the doctors want you to feel, unfortunately, that those drugs are working when all they're really doing is covering up the real problem. They're covering up the symptom. And if you keep doing that, the inside of you, your immune system will continue to deteriorate. And you've also got to now deal with the effects of some of these medications. And a lot of them, if you go through, and there's websites like drugs.com where you can actually plug in the drug that you're taking, the prescription, whether it's over the counter or not, and you can see the list of side effects. One of the drugs I was taking as a kid is called Organodin, which you probably never heard of. But the list of side effects, the last time I looked it up, was like 10 pages long, including kidney failure, including worsening of breathing issues. Imagine that. I was taking an asthma medicine, and one of the side effects is worsening of breathing issues. I mean, the insanity behind these things is never ending. And it will always be that way because drugs cannot cure you. They cannot heal you. They are a symptom treatment of an underlying problem that you've got to get to the bottom of it. If you don't get to the bottom of that problem and start addressing why your body's having trouble breathing, then you're going to grow up and getting worse. And then as you get into adulthood, maybe it's no longer breathing problems. Now your immune system is totally shot and you're facing other issues, other diseases, other malignancies, whether it's the big ones like cancer or some autoimmune disease like we talked about last podcast with rheumatoid and lupus and all those things. You've got to get your immune system working. Now, nobody told us that in the medical world, and I really want to emphasize this. When you go to the doctor, you're going to come out of there with only a couple of options. Number one, wait and see. Well, what good does that do? I mean, they're not doing anything. Number two, and this is more likely, they're going to give you a prescription. They're going to give you a drug of some kind. Doctors are taught in school to give you prescriptions, and then they're paid to give you prescriptions for a symptom when they graduate. There is no talk about getting healthy. So when somebody has a breathing problem, it's never even in their mind. It's not in their schooling. It's not in their literature that they read. It's never in there where it says, let's look and see why this child or why this adult is having trouble breathing in the first place. Now, because of that, whether it's breathing issues or allergies or cancer or blood pressure or diabetes, you name it, and the big ones like autoimmune diseases, like rheumatoid, like I mentioned earlier, no matter what the issue is, if a doctor's dealing with that, you know what scares them the most? There's an article back in 2006 that actually made it into Time magazine. You can see the headline there. What scares doctors the most? Being the patient. Because they know all they're going to get if they go in as a patient is a symptom treatment like a drug. And they know it doesn't fix them. Well, they don't know what to do. Well, we found out by the grace of God when I was 13 years old, I started having real big problems. I started taking extra doses of the medication because I was tired of not being able to finish a soccer game. Well, if you take too much of a medication, you're going to have a nasty side effect. And I had this big pain show up, and I was 13 years old, all along this side of my body, which turned out to be my kidney. Well, you know, what do you do when your kid's hurting? Now you got to try to find some pain relief. They carried me to this very special chiropractor. And she stopped everything I was dealing with, all the breathing issues, all the medications, all the trips to the pediatrician, all the hospital visits, all those steroid treatments. She put a stop to all that. And more apropos, she got my body to where it was fixing itself. You see, Dr. Sandy did not treat my asthma or anything else that was going on in my body. Just like I am not going to treat that symptom when you come in and see us. I'm going to get your body where it is now working. So it's fundamentally opposed to this disaster system that the doctors have. And ultimately, you are the doctor. You are in control. You were given this gift from God above that is supposed to be healthy. That is how you're made. You're not made to be sick. And the system, the TV, the doctors, all these questionnaires, you go to the doctor and you say, does anybody in your family have X, Y, and Z? Because they want you to feel hopeless. We're the hope dealers. They want you to feel hopeless because it's in your genes. Oh, your parents had it, so you must have it. Well, nobody in my family had what I was dealing with. My parents are smart enough to realize, hey, this is not some genetic thing. Plus, our faith is that God made us to be well and whole. This chiropractor pointed out, she showed us exactly what was causing my body to be sick. Right? So again, she did not treat my asthma or my breathing problems. I'm not going to do that either. I'm going to look at your body and say, this is what you have to do to get your body working very well. And the same thing, it's not just for me. This is one of our favorite testimonies around here. If you've been around our office in North Dallas at all, you've probably noticed Hannah. She is now at LSU going to go to chiropractic school when she's done with that to be a chiropractor like we are here. Very specialized. Less than 1% of the entire chiropractic profession does anything like what we do, where we focus on getting the body efficient. And there are real rules to this. Okay, Dr. Hooten, I kind of get that. You're saying don't treat the condition, treat the body so it fixes itself. But how do you do that? What does it actually look like? Well, number one is your mindset. And I'm going to talk about this on every single podcast for the next 50 years. Your mindset is everything. You cannot give your body, you cannot give your mind and your soul over to a system that's only going to drug you. They're even scared of it too. The doctors don't want to do it. You should not turn your health and your life over to a doctor. You have to take control. So whose responsibility is your health? It's yours. My responsibility is mine. My wife's responsibility for her health is hers. Now, our 12-year-old daughter, we realize her health is our responsibility, and we're raising her to understand that as she gets older and wiser, she is taking control of her own health. There's no Tylenol in our house. There's no Advils in our house. There's no medication in our house of any kind because we don't want to fall prey into thinking that we have to have a drug to be healthy. So number one is mindset. Do you want to be well? Do you want to be healthy? And if you've listened to the podcast this long, you probably do want to be healthy, because if you just want to stay sick and let your body do its thing, you've probably turned it off already. So what do you do physically? You got your mind right? You're here listening. Take control of your health. Do not give it to a doctor. So that flies in the face of, what do you see all over the TV? Go talk to your doctor. Go talk to your doctor. Go talk to your doctor. Go do this test. Go do this scan. Go do this, probe. No, that is not taking control of your health. That's you waiting until something bad happens. And then they show you something happens, and then here's your symptom treatment. That is not what we're talking about. We're talking about taking authority over the biggest gift that God gave us all, and that is your temple. You can't love right. You can't be a good parent. You can't do everything that God has planned for you if you don't have a physical body to do it. If your body goes kaput, all that's gone. So your health has to be your number one priority. Well, how about my kids? Their health is number one priority. Yes, I get that. I would gladly lay my life down for my daughter. But how can you take care of your kids if your body's falling apart? So take authority. Now, the first physical thing you can do, that's where I come in, is your spine. See, when we went to the chiropractor at 13 years old, she took x-rays of my spine, and there my spine was crooked, right, like a question mark. And she said, this is why your son's body is sick. This is why your son's body is having trouble. It's why his immune system is low. It's why his lung problems are happening. So be very careful there. She didn't say, I'm going to treat your asthma. She said, we got to get your spine working. We got to get your nerves going to your lungs better. We got to get your brain and your nerves connected to your immune system better so his body can fight. Well, this is the first thing that made sense. So think about it this way. And again, I'm going to be a broken record here. If you listened last week, we're talking about the garden theory. Okay? Think of your brain as the water supply to your perfect garden. And out in your garden, you've got your lungs, your heart, your liver, your spleen, your kidneys, your bone marrow, all of it. Anything that's in your body is in your garden. So now let's talk about a real garden, like rose bushes and orange trees and coconut trees and whatever plants are out there, whatever you like, lilies, everything is in your perfect garden. And the way that you're designed, you should have the perfect amount of water being delivered to this garden every second of every day. This goes all the time, 24/7, 366. Boom. And in the case of your body, the garden also talks back up to the water supply, so it's a two-way flow. After all, your brain can't live without your body, right? So it's this flow, and it has to be going at 100% the whole time. Well, imagine shutting the water off. Obviously, what happens to your garden really quick? It's going to die. Well, now take the hose, which, aka your spine, your spinal column, and kink it. So there's a percentage of the water not getting through. Let's say 5% of the water is not getting through this hose. What happens to your garden that way? Will it be 100%? What do you think? No, it won't be 100%. So what does that look like if you had a real garden? So the rose bushes, what happens to some of the petals on the roses? What happens to some of the leaves on the orange trees? What happens to some of the grass that's in your garden? It's not quite as healthy. It starts to wither away if you choke any of that water out from your garden. In the terms of your spine, we call that subluxation. Subluxation, an easy way to think about it, is a kink in your spine or a kink in your hose, choking the flow between your brain and your body. And a lot of times this will happen, like in my case, we felt like it happened at birth. I don't remember taking a fall, when I was 2 years old or something. I wasn't breathing very well from the very beginning, so we assumed something happened at birth. It was pretty traumatic. There was something, they had to try and coerce me out of my mom. Maybe you took a fall when you were learning how to walk when you're 1 and 2 years old. Maybe I was a rough boy. Maybe you're wrestling and you fall and you do something to kink your spine a little bit. Right then, the problems begin. Now, I never had back pain. That scoliosis I had, that curvature in there, I never had pain from that. So you could have a kink in your spine, you could have a subluxation and not feel it at all. Because most of the information coming from your brain down to your body is power, it's function, it's all your immune system information. And see, your immune system, like, let's just take your spleen, for example. If your spleen's not getting enough power, you don't feel that, but your immune system is low. You're going to be more susceptible to things like asthma and bugs and viruses and things that's in the air. That's your first thing. You have to take care of your spine. And if you don't get into an office like ours, because there's chiropractors everywhere. I know there last I looked, there was about 70,000 in the United States. Out of that 70,000, less than 500 do what we do. Most of the chiropractors are out there trying to treat your symptom, like back pain or headaches or whatever, and they'll give you all kinds of stuff. There's chiropractors now injecting, in their office, they'll have nurses in there injecting Botox. Well, you don't get headaches and you don't get pains because of a lack of Botox. That's just another symptom treatment. By the way, it's botulism, which is terrible for you. You have to go to a very special chiropractor, and we're one of those few. If you don't live in the North Texas area, please feel free to reach out to us. You can find us at drhooten.com, drhooten.com. You can go through our website. You can find us all over social media, Hooten Family Healing Center. We'll try and help you find someone in your area. Just give us your zip code and we'll do everything we can to help you find someone. But you got to get to that right chiropractor that's going to get your hose flowing. Now, in my case, when she started doing that at 13 years old, I remember the weather outside that day because it was the first day that I remember taking a full breath. After she adjusted me, I got off that table. Now, honestly, it scared me a little bit. I was 13 and, my spine was a mess. She had to do all this stuff and there was lots of cracking and popping going on. But my spine started to work and my lungs started to expand. My immune system kicked into high gear and I was able to take a full breath. So when I went outside and I was breathing normal, it was almost strange. And that was the end of my breathing problems. Now we went home and I as far as I can remember, the next few weeks, we just stopped the medication. I no longer needed to use that inhaler anymore. I was going to see Dr. Sandy every week. I was getting adjusted to keep my spine flowing. But the trade-off for that was I never missed another soccer game. I never had to take any more medication. I never went back to the hospital. Nobody ever diagnosed me again. We got out of the system. We got away from the doctors. I don't go to doctors unless it is an absolute crisis. I've broken several bones playing soccer. I had to go get casted and all that. But we don't go to doctors for healthcare because it's not healthcare. Even they don't want to do it. It scares them to do that. We take control of our health. And you know what? Just to kind of touch on this, in 2020, we had the what? The COVID-19 took over the whole media news cycle. In fact, it took over the planet. It seems like everybody's scared to death. If I was 13 and I had that breathing disorder, I had all that asthma, I would have been a little scared of this thing. But here, I'll just flat out tell you, we did not close for a second. I never wore a mask in here. We had 200 to 300 people a day sometimes coming through here. Very few of them, if any, maybe 5 or 6 people wore a mask, breathing all over me. We had people with COVID positive, and I told them, take that mask off. You need to be breathing fresh air. Get the virus and the junk that you're exhaling, get it away from your body. So they're breathing all over me. No, I didn't wear a mask. No, I didn't get sick. I didn't even get a booger. I didn't miss a second of work. If I had been like I was at 13 and COVID shows up, I very well may have died, right? But I never got the vaccine because that's another cover-up. It doesn't help you with anything. It's like a artificial, and it gives you an artificial sense of protection. It's a total fake. Now you're seeing all these side effects of these things. The whole system is geared to try and treat a symptom, even if you don't have one. So our job, our mission is to give you complete authority over your health. Starts with your spine. Remember, these stories are real, all right? And this hand is just one of 200 or 300 people that have come through with asthma. I did not treat the asthma. This is not medical advice. I don't even want to give you medical advice. I want you to get as far away from medicine and their drug dealers as you possibly can. I want to give you authority over it. This is health advice. This is hope dealer advice. My shirt, we had a plan, right? God has a better one for you too. Reach out to us. We can definitely help you wherever you are. If you've got breathing problems, if you know someone with asthma, tell them about us. Don't tell them I'm going to come in and cure their asthma or whatever. I'm going to get their body working so they fix themselves. Remember, drugs are bad. God is great, and so are you. We'll talk to you next time.